Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. Today is a truly sad day for Marvel fans. This morning, Netflix officially canceled The Punisher after 2 seasons and also announced that Jessica Jones Season 3 would be the final season. So, as of today, the Marvel Netflix universe is officially dead as we know it. So, today I'm going to be talking about the future of these characters following the cancellations. I'll be going over what their options are, how likely their returns are, and where we could see them next outside of solo series. But before all of that, I'd like to take a moment to sincerely thank all of the actors, showrunners, producers, writers, directors, editors, composers, costume designers, stunt coordinators, and everyone else for an incredible 5 years and 13 seasons of television. There were some bumps, sure, but also some incredible high points that transcended the superhero genre. These shows demonstrated something often lost these days, especially for comic book stories, that they can be better than the sum of their parts. Shows like Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and The Punisher will go down as the best superhero TV shows ever made, simply because everyone involved didn't just want to make a good superhero series, they wanted to make truly great ones, and we're all grateful for it. If you'd like, it'd be nice to take a moment in the comics to talk about your favorite characters, moments, or episodes from each of the series. But of course, while it is sad to hear that all of these characters may never appear again in their current form, there are some glimmers of hope. In Jeff Loeb's letter to Marvel fans, he teased that this wasn't the end for all of the characters, and recently even said he wouldn't be surprised if any of them were revived on another network. But where would they go? What are their options here? It's pretty well known at this point that Disney wants to keep everything in-house, so their only real choices following the Disney-Fox deal are ABC, Freeform, FX, Hulu, and Disney+. Although considering how dark and mature they are, that pretty much marks out all of them except FX and Hulu. But this is made all the more complicated by Netflix's rather inconvenient contracts, which state that those versions of the characters can't appear in anything outside of Netflix for a given amount of time following cancellation. That time is generally agreed to be 2 years as of right now, although early on the actress who played Marcy Stahl said that she had believed it to be more in the range of 16 to 18 months. However long it is, it means that wherever they come back, the earliest we could expect to see them at this time is 2021. Unless Netflix comes to some kind of deal. Of Hulu and FX, Hulu is the most likely and the most popular option. Following the Disney-Fox deal, Disney will own 60% of Hulu, and they've teased they have plans to amp up Hulu in many ways. They'll take them worldwide, provide higher budgets, and give them IP they didn't have before. Apparently Disney's plan is to give family-friendly movies and shows to Disney+, and the R-rated ones go to Hulu. So this makes Hulu a perfect spot for these shows. Adding to that, Marvel and Hulu have begun to amp up their partnership. Hulu has teased Runaways is very likely for a third season, and they just recently announced a whole new slate of adult animated series with The Offenders. Also recently, the senior vice president of originals at Hulu, Craig Erwich, was asked directly about the Marvel Netflix series, and he indicated that Hulu was interested in reviving them, but that it depended on the time they're ready and who is behind them. So could Hulu bring some or all of these shows back? Honestly, I think there's a somewhat decent chance. It would bring some major points to Hulu's corner, considering how big the Save Daredevil campaign has grown. And I think having them brought back from cancellation would bring a whole new air of excitement to these series. The biggest bump here is the when they're ready bit. Would Hulu be willing to wait until 2021 to produce these shows? Personally, I don't see why not. Developing shows years in advance is not uncommon. Amazon announced their Lord of the Rings series in 2017, and it's not due to arrive until 2021 at the earliest. I'm not sure about the specifics of the contract, though. Are they not allowed to even so much as begin developing anything until 2 years later? Or are they just not allowed to announce or release it until then? That's a bit harder to say. Also, I have some pretty big questions about The Defenders, the team up series. That was always a limited series, so despite popular belief, it was not canceled and it was never meant to have a season 2. But is it included in the 2-year limit too? If so, does that mean that Hulu could start this all up again with a new Defenders season in 2020 to kickstart it again? It's not clear on that front. Another option is that Hulu might be able to come to some kind of deal with Netflix. Perhaps Netflix would be willing to sell them back earlier. It wouldn't be cheap, sure, but again, it's a lot of gain for Hulu. It may not seem likely that Netflix would go for that, but it's worth noting that they're actually in some financial trouble right now. They're $8 billion in self-made debt, and it was reported last month that their earnings are no longer justifying how much they're spending. That's likely a large reason why these shows were canceled in the first place, as they were costing Netflix somewhere around $225 million per year. Hulu doesn't really have that problem. There are a lot of questions and what ifs here. It's hard to predict what could happen, but we do know two things for sure. Marvel wants them back, and Hulu is interested. And that's a good sign. But what about the cast? How likely are they to return? I think Charlie Cox, Krysten Ritter, and Mike Colter are all guarantees to come back. They all love playing their characters, and they've had a lot of success from them. And they have a lot to gain from returning to the roles as well. I think Finn Jones is also likely, but unfortunately Iron Fist really did some damage to his career. He currently has no future acting roles listed on IMDb. He may want to distance himself from that role, or he may choose to come back if only because it's the only guaranteed role he has at the moment. I really hate this because he's not a bad actor. Luke Cage and Iron Fist Season 2 proved that with proper direction and good writing, he can give in a good performance. Of the bunch, I think Jon Bernthal is the most complicated to return, not because he doesn't enjoy playing Frank Castle, I think he does, purely because he's actually a pretty prolific actor in movies and TV. He's got at least 7 projects coming up, so by the time all of this works out for a return, he may be at the point in his career where a TV role would be more of a step back than forward. That doesn't mean he'd never appear in the role again, he just might not come back for a solo series. Now, maybe what they could do is have solo movies on Hulu instead of a series. I actually think that could really work. Speaking of which, there's the question of appearances outside of solo projects. It's been teased that all of these characters have futures in the MCU, solo or not. So where are some of the places they could show up? I think Daredevil is the most likely to show up because he's just so popular. So I could see him appearing maybe in a Spider-Man movie. He's the most likely to survive all of this, even if there is a chance that Disney might want to recast the role, which I definitely don't think is the right move. This version of Daredevil is so iconic and perfect, I don't think they could ever get out from under its shadow. Iron Fist and Luke Cage are complicated. They have history with the likes of the Avengers, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange in the comics, so there's reason for them to appear, but they also aren't necessarily the most popular of the bunch. Jessica Jones and The Punisher are 2 of the least likely to return. I could potentially see Jessica being in, say, Daily Bugle / The Pulse series, like on Disney Plus or something, or even being the go-to MCU private investigator like she is in the comics. But the Punisher has very little chance. He's a popular character, but he's also very controversial, which automatically marks him out of Disney's movies, and he wouldn't really fit in with any of the other TV shows outside of these characters. I think almost all of these characters have decent odds of a return. There are obstacles in the way, but there is an interest in bringing them back. Daredevil in particular. I think the Punisher's the least likely of the bunch. It's got a big-time actor attached, and he's a polarizing character to boot. It would be expensive for Hulu, sure, but one thing they could do to cut that down is change things up a bit. They could continue some of the series, but make TV movies instead for others. So they could make Punisher movies instead, which would work better with Bernthal's schedule. Maybe they could do that for Heroes for Hire too, and then continue making Daredevil and Jessica Jones seasons. I wouldn't mind that at all. Really, I just want to see these characters return because there's so much potential here, and I think they all have many more stories to tell. But I'd like to know what you guys think of all of this. Where and how would you like to see these characters appear next? How likely do you think a return from any of these characters is? And remember to comment your favorite moments from all of these shows. I'd love to hear it. Whatever happens, I'm thrilled that we did manage to get 5 years and somewhere around 160 hours of content I'll never forget. Thank you once again to everyone involved, and I'll see you all next time.